So let's go ahead and get a towel if you can. If you don't have one, you can just use your hands. We just want to kind of get down in here into the belly. And I really want you guys to think about relaxing the shoulders. It's really important because typically we we go up here a lot, okay? And with some of the recent education I've been working on, it's showing to be a very common pattern to not just breathe up in here, but to try to stabilize ourselves, try to get strong, try to brace for whatever's coming up here in the neck. And I'm sure most of us kind of are aware of like, this is my stress spot, right? How often do we say that? But it's not just stress, it's stability. We're looking for balance. We're looking for ways to hold ourselves up, or ways to deal with movements that we're not using our core for. So you can imagine using this instead of this, right? For everything. And now we're trying to shift all that energy down into the core. So we need a minute to sort of work on that software piece, right? It's not really a hardware piece as much as a software. That's just how we're signaling things. That's something we've taught ourselves to do. So we need a minute to sort of unlearn that, repattern it before we get into complex movement where we might just go right back up to strategies we're familiar with, right? Let's shrug those shoulders, let's tighten our neck, let's breathe into our chest. So you'll be surprised that even movement that's supposed to be relaxing and about mobility and core activation oftentimes is just reinforcing patterns that we're using around stress. So it helps for that reason to have something that you can have for some feedback. All right. So even if it just takes an extra 2, 3 minutes before you get started on your movement to just do a little reset, a little reboot of your breath, it will really help. So I've got the ends, I'm pulling them in. I got them pretty snug because I really want my brain to notice this pressure here and full contact around my low back. I'm going to just start with those breaths in. And at first, I want to just settle enough that my breath just feels like it goes down into my belly to start with, right? So I'm not forcing it. I'm not trying to intensely take a big breath in. I'm just allowing my body to feel settled. And once I feel settled, relaxed, muscles are starting to come off tension, I'm sitting on the ground, however I can that feels relaxed, so that I just notice the structure of the body that's holding me up, right? My spine, all the bones that are kind of aligned and holding us up here. We're just trying to sense the balance that they have when they're aligned and how that just kind of naturally holds you up. Muscles kind of know how tense to be, how much they should be firing, what time they should be coming on. And then you just might notice the breath starting to move down into the belly more. Okay, so I'm going to take a breath in here. We're going to try to just focus on the exhale and make that exhale longer than your inhale. Okay, that's all I want you to think about right now. Just get that exhale out. So if your exhale feels short, just be patient and maybe just give a little effort pushing out some extra air when you feel like you'd normally stop. Okay, so we're going to breathe in. Let that belly fill with air. Hold it for a second, just so you notice that it's pushing into this towel, and then we're going to let go. So you're like an explorer trying to find the bottom of your breath. Okay, so you're going to breathe in. There's that big balloon fill. It's pushing out into the sides. It's pushing into the back. I can feel all of that. And I'm going to let that out slowly. We're going to pause right there. Don't breathe in yet. Hang in there. Now let it in slow, calm. We want to teach that inhale to not be a hyperventilation breath. And we let go. So you'll notice sometimes there's a little anxiety at the bottom of our breath. We want to jump into that next breath, but we have to be kind of create a pause, right? Create that space where we can be still and just, I want to take a good breath in. I'm going to let it go into my belly. I have to keep my ribs down and my hips tucked in order for that feeling of moving down into that belly with the air. Then we let it all go. I'm pulling in a little harder now to give myself more resistance to push into with that inhale. So I'm pulling in, I'm going to take a bigger breath in. I had to get into a better position to overcome that resistance of the towel. I'm holding that, the diaphragm moved down, pushed all the contents of our core out to the side. We're feeling that. And then we let it all go. Good. So on these next two exhales, I want you to actually pull your towel in or push your hands together to encourage more of a powerful exhale. Okay, here we go. Big breath in. We hold the top of that breath, then we're going to exhale out, follow it, and then at the end, give it a little pressure. Now it should feel pretty tight. We're going to take a breath into that. 3, 2, 1. Breathe in. Hold the top. We're going to hold it here for 4, 3, 2, 1. Let it go for 8 seconds. Good. Now we're going to take 3 big breaths. Okay. So we're adding size, we're adding more range. We're going to add some power to this breath. We're going to try to keep the pattern the same. Okay. So I'm going to try to really get a big breath in, but I'm going to try to keep it in the belly. I'm going to try to not make that speed that I'm adding go up into my neck all of a sudden. Okay. So I've still got that towel pulled in pretty tight. I'm going to target that. Big breath in. Ready? Feel that big, big, big breath, and then we're going to let it all go. Still trying to make that exhale longer than the inhale. Ready? Big breath in. Hold the top of that breath and let it all go. Get to the bottom of that breath. Just a little faster. Again, breathe in. Feel that expansion. Notice how much movement that is. Exhale out. Good. All right. So we kind of broke up each breath. We got a chance to learn from each one. Now I'm going to try to do 3 in a row. So it's going to sound a little bit like a hyperventilation breath, but we're going to try to get it more functional, more down into the core, still breathing into those ribs, into the low back, and then we're going to get the air out as fast as we can. Okay. As soon as we get that air out, we're going to try to go right into our next breath. All right. So I want you to tell yourself that even though this is going to go fast, you want to still try to make that exhale longer than your inhale if you can. So it's going to require some power to force that air out. So again, you might encourage that by almost pulling those hands together a little bit. Okay. It's almost like an assisted exhale because we're assisting ourselves in pulling our ribs together. So you don't want to pull hard on the breath in too much because then you won't let yourself breathe in. So you're following, but you're kind of assisting on that exhale. Okay, so it's going to sound like this. 3 in a row. Okay, just like that. So we're trying to keep the pattern down here into the ribs. So imagine your belly's going to go from your tailbone or a pubic bone to the ribs to the chest and then all back out. Okay, we're going to be mobilizing our spine with this breath. Here we go. Let's try 3 in a row, then we'll pause. Here we go. Ready? Big breath in, guys. Get it out. Good job. So just like movement, we need to be able to keep a pattern that's functional and stable, has efficiency to it, and be able to do it slow, be able to do it fast, be able to do it with more force, be able to do it with less force. And that's what might feel like more of an upregulation kind of breath, right? That breath makes you kind of want to do something. Okay? So good job, guys. So you can move the towel, and this is the breath that sometimes we're going to use that today as we look for areas that are challenging. Okay, so we're going to get into this crawl position, and we're going to get our feet apart. We're going to drive our hips up, and we're going to try to drive our heels down, kind of a down dog here. All right. I don't like to use too many specific names of things because to me, this is just moving and breathing, guys, and I want everybody to feel like they can connect to their body and their movement. So it doesn't have to be only if it's yoga or Pilates or strength training or fitness. Just think of it as movement. And this is my body, and I want to be able to move it and access its potential, right? So we're pushing through our wrists, our heels into our hand. We're driving our heels down, trying to get a stretch behind the knee. I'm going to bend that right knee so I can focus on the left. Bend that left knee so I can focus on the right. Just go back and forth for a second. Go where you feel like you can get a little stretch down through that calf, that hamstring. And of course, we are breathing. I want you guys just breathing into your belly. Just breathe wherever you want to breathe, but keep breathing. Okay? Good. Now we're going to take one foot. All right, one foot. We're going to throw the other one back here and just drive in through that hip. All right. Try to just see if you can get some load through that one hip. You're pushing through your arms, just breathing out, responding to any tension or discomfort that you feel with breathing. Not a breath hold. Be mindful where that breath is. Good. So I want you to think now, we're going to turn this toe in. Okay, so I'm turning this toe inward and I'm trying to almost wind up the other way. Okay, so if you guys see me from this angle here, if I turn this foot in and I wind up into it that way, my foot's turned in, I'm trying to turn the opposite way. And I'm kind of stepping across, trying to see if I can sort of internally rotate this leg. So I'm turning it in, and then I'm trying to turn my torso the other way. Okay, we're winding up through the hip there. Okay. So now I'm going to kind of bend my knee, and then as I push out, I'm going to try to drive that knee out. Now this one looks a little complicated here. Drive the knee out and kind of wind up into that foot. So I'm not letting my foot spin out. I'm actually doing the opposite, and then I'm turning into it, okay? So we're getting a lot of shoulder load here, so hang in there. Kind of going across, breathing, getting those hips wound up. The more you can drive your chest through your arms, the more overhead you're going to get, the more you're going to get those hips back. And then we're going to come back down. And thank you for pushing yourself through that a little bit. Shake out those shoulders. All right, good job, guys. So we got through that whole back line of the body. All right, next we're going to get back into this crawl. And we're just going to shift into the ankles now a little more. So kind of got the calves a little bit through that, hamstrings. Now we're sitting back into this sort of beast pose here. Just kind of rocking in, getting into those big toes. Okay, the big toe, I want that toe to bend. All right, so I'm going to get a little closer here. We're going to just think about making sure we get a full bend in through the toe. And I'm going big toe to kind of pinky toe, going through the balls of the feet, making sure those toes are moving. We want to get these ankles warmed up and mobile as best as we can. Okay, so we're going back and forth, back and forth. Let's go back. We're going to go back into our sort of plank position here. And then we're going to drive our hips up again. See if you can get a little bit more stretch now. Go to the left side, go to the right side. Internally rotate that foot. So when I say that, what I'm talking about, guys, is get that foot turned in the best you can. All right, get that foot turned in. And then we're going to lean on our hands and try to press that knee back. Press that knee back, but you're kind of winding up that foot. Wind up that foot. Just like that. This is a new one. I know it's a little bit complicated, especially if you feel stiff. You're having a hard time holding yourself up on your shoulders. You're just trying to wind up, knee is aimed out, foot is straight. Just kind of pressing through there. Breathing. And then we come back down, back to all fours. And then we're going to go back to rock back. Push those arms out in front. Walk back out. We're going to go back into our plank. Hold ourselves up here. Breathing. Go back into a plank. Push yourself into those toes. Lean out over those shoulders. Lots of core getting warmed up here. Push back. One more time. Big breath in. Fill that rib cage. Lean out over to those hands. Good, Jess. All right, back down to all fours. Good. All right, next, we're going to get up onto our kneeling position. We're going to get into those a little bit more ankle, hamstring, hip. So we're going to go forward here. We're going to lean into the ankle. And I want you guys to keep your foot a little closer to you so you can get that knee out over those toes. All right. And we're going to keep that safe by making sure we don't collapse the knee inside the ankle. And then the arch collapses. We're going to try to drive the knee towards the small toes. And then when we come up, we're going to lift the toe up. Think about dorsiflexion, trying to pull the toe towards the knee. So I want you working through that ship. Okay, so from here, you kind of see I'm going into the ankle, creating that angle, and then I'm trying to keep it as I come up. Okay, so I'm creating as much of a deep angle as I can, then keep it. Leaning into that ankle. Remember, this isn't just a stretch, this is activation. We're actively pulling the top of our foot towards our knee. And that's how we're getting further in. So here I'm trying to relax, get as much of a stretch as I can through here. Now I'm activating the front, pulling. Come back down. Come back up. Good job, guys. Good. Now we're going to switch. Same thing on this side. Comparing sides. Maybe one side's a little stiffer. I'm taking note of that. I'm noticing, hey, maybe I'll do more on this side if it's stiffer. I'm going to go in. Then when I come up, trying to pull that toe up, pull that foot, go back down, see if I can get a little further this time. Come back up, lift, 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 active, pull, 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 pull. Make sure you're breathing in here. Take another breath. Breathe out as you pull. Good. Get into the front of that ankle. Lift back up. Good. All right, guys, good. We're switching back to the other side. Throw that leg out. Squeeze your glute here. All right, and we're going to try to drive through and kind of bend. And then, again, we do this one a lot. We've got to get these quads here to fire against any stiffness in your hamstring. Okay, so we just did this toe pull. We're just kind of adding it to the mix if we can. If you can't get your leg straight because your toes pulled up, then keep it pointed. See if it helps you get it straight. Okay. Either one is fine. Pressing that knee down, driving through the floor. Making sure that you're getting a good contraction up here in the thigh, that you're not just casually hyperextending your knee joint. We want to squeeze that quad every time. Squeeze, feel your thigh muscle squeeze. You can even put your hand there, feel it. Good, switch. All right, remember, squeeze the quad, push the hip forward, squeeze. If you need more hamstring stretch, you just have to bend forward more, push the hips back more, sort of think of tipping forward. Squeeze, again, if it feels like, oof, that's pretty tight, get a big breath in. Get those exhales, just like we practiced. That powerful exhale. We'll keep the core engaged. We'll focus on down regulating the stiffness. Just like that. Wow, look at that. That's a fuzzy jacket. You want to say hi to everybody? I'm almost done, buddy. I'm just finishing up a couple things, okay? All right, guys. That's Miles, in case anybody hasn't met Miles yet. All right, so we're going to get up onto this plank position. See you soon, buddy. We're going to bring our knee forward and then see if we can get down to our elbow. We're just relaxing, okay? You can see my back knee's bent. If you want to straighten it, that'll push you over your knee a little bit more. We're just getting a quick stretch here. Let's take a big breath in. Now we're going to go back up to our arms. Take a big breath to stabilize that core. So big breath in. We're going to switch feet. Bring the other knee forward. Breathe out when you come down. Good. We're kind of using the plank as our transition. Go through my plank. This is where I want to squeeze my butt tight. Get that knee down. Come back down and breathe out. Get into that hip. Turn your chest towards that knee. Think about getting the hip to the floor, but not so you kind of fall over to the side. I want you to kind of keep your chest over your knee. Okay, so big breath in. Brace yourself as you switch sides. Exhale out, come down. Turning a little bit towards the knee. A couple more of these. Switch. Exhaling as we drop into that stretch to help open up that hip. Switching. Good job, guys. Good. Now we're going to get this foot up. We're going to keep it up now. We're not going to tip it over. We're going to keep it up. We're going to give it a big hug. We're going to turn. I'm going to hug this knee and try to drop that hip. So I'm going to drop that hip. Come back up. Take a big breath in. Drop that hip. I'm kind of letting the foot fall to the side. When I come up here, I'm on the top of my foot. If that hurts or it's uncomfortable, just put your knee down here for a second. Take a big breath in. Turn, try to drop that hip. Stretching out this whole side through here. Trying to keep this foot flat. Come back. Take a big breath in. Drop that side. Come back up. One more time. Big breath in. And drop it. And then we come back. Good job, guys. Good. Switching sides. Again, I'm going to give my knee a hug. I'm kind of pulling it into my chest. I can use this knee down. All right. I'm going to turn, let that foot fall to the side. Then I'm going to try to turn and drop that hip. And I'm trying to keep this foot facing forward and turn and drop that hip. So I'm hugging my knee to help keep my foot from collapsing. Trying to touch my pocket or my hip to the floor. Come back, put that knee down, holding myself up on this arm here. Breathe in through the nose, fill the belly. Fill that belly with air. Exhale out when you drop. Come back, big breath in. Hold your breath as you get into position. Exhale out. 2 more. Big breath in. And drop that hip. 1 more time. Big breath in. And drop that hip. Good job, guys. Good. Next, go right back up to our kneeling position. See how everything's feeling. We're going to go into this hip here. I want you guys to press that hip forward. Try to think hip towards the floor. Okay? And then we're going to rotate towards the ceiling. Just like that. So if you need to, put your fist. If you need to, put your hand. But don't let your butt go behind you if you can. Try to drive your hip forward as far as you can. And then rotate around. You're going to come down. Put your hand back down. You're trying to keep this glute as tight as you can. Rotate. So my glute's staying on the whole time. Remember, we don't want to start to round. If you are getting to the point where you kind of have to stick your hips back, try to get up on your fingertips, maybe if you can, just anything you can do to press that or throw this foot out a little further to see if that'll help you get your hip forward. You just want to make sure, guys, that we're tucking that hip as we press it forward to keep that glute as engaged as possible to open up the whole front of this hip here. So there's some detail work happening here. And that's why you're going to get so much out of this. So I'm not just rotating. I'm keeping my glute tight. Then I'm pulling that arm up, pulling that shoulder back, then reaching. We're going to get a couple more of these. Good job. Come back up. Keep that glute tight. Switch sides. Good. Again, tuck that hip underneath. You're trying to keep it there. If you do that, you should feel a stretch right in the front of that hip here. Okay, so that's kind of what we're going for, is getting that stretch high up into the hip. If we kind of just tip forward a little, you might get it a little down here, but you'll notice as you pull and tuck, that hip stretch comes way up here at the top. Okay, we want to get it up in here. Drive that hip forward. So as I tuck, now I'm trying to press through that hip as I keep it tucked. I'm going to reach down. I can feel this side's a little tighter, and then I'm going to rotate. But my goal is to help myself rotate by keeping my glutes really tight. Okay, so I'm going to show it here from a couple different angles. Tuck, press down. That glute is just driving towards the ground. I'm opening up this knee out, trying to turn my chest towards this knee. Pulling my elbow back, open up that chest, and come back. Remember, don't forget about the glute. It's going to have a harder time squeezing the whole time through this, especially if we're stiff. I'm going to get a couple more here. One more time. Good job, guys. Good. All right. Next, we're going to stay just a couple more minutes because I know we got started a little late as everybody kind of jumped on. So I'm going to try to max out here everything I can with you guys. I'm going to try to work up into our squat. Okay, so I want you guys to get into your toes here. Again, just double checking how those feet feel. I want you to feel really connected to the balls of your feet through here. Feeling those ankles, closing down those ankles, right? I'm getting that knee over that toe. Walk over here, get a knee over that toe. Just working back and forth. And then see if you can find a position where you can start to get your feet flat. Okay, so if you're having trouble not having your heels come up, just push your butt back. Get your shins more vertical. See if you can get those elbows out. Okay, press those elbows into the knees if you have to. See if you can get into those hips, but through those heels being down. Okay, if you have to lift up even higher, that's okay. Just drive those knees out. Okay, keep your feet straight if you can, pretty straight. Okay, if you have to turn your toes out a little to help you get into this position, that's okay. Just get those knees out. Just get some breathing in here. Breathe into your belly. Breathe into your back. And then we're going to stand up and squeeze our glutes to finish that squat pattern. Okay, so we're squeezing. Remember in that hip tuck position, we talked about tucking the hips. Okay, we're going to kind of drive the hip back. See if we can get back into that shape again, wherever that is for you. Maybe it's only here and you have to push your hands out. Just try to help assist getting those knees out a little. As long as your toes don't lift up, keep the toes down. See if you can work down. Just keep driving those hips back if you have to. You can reach out if you need to balance yourself. Remember now, hips come up and we finish standing through our glutes, not our back. That's the most important one. We're going to do 6 more of these, guys. So take your time. Big breath in. Fill that belly. Come down. Get those hips open. Relax your feet. Keep your toes on the ground. Breathing. Drive up. Press the floor away. Squeeze your glutes. We're going to come down. Nose to toes. Chest towards the floor. We're going to start working in a little bit more being upright. I want to see, can we get our chest up now a little bit and then stand up and squeeze. Again, we're tipping forward, nose to toes. Get to where you can get. Can you bend your knees to get to the floor or somewhere close? Then can we lift ourselves up, maybe tip up, stand up, drive through your feet, squeeze your glutes. Okay, a couple more. Big breath into the belly. Just kind of putting everything together, tipping forward. And remember how much stuff we did in this position when we started today? We're driving the knees out, getting into the bottom of that squat. Arms come up if we can. Press the floor away, squeeze. Good job. Let's do 2 more, guys. Hang in there with me. We've worked hard to get to this point, so I want to use as much as we can, okay? Big breath into the belly. Tip forward. Bend the knees to get to the floor. See if you can get in there. Get the ankles. Get those knees out. You can use your elbows. Breathing. Making sure you feel safe. Arms come up, drive out of that. Squeeze your glutes. Okay, here's our last one. We feel our feet. That's the most important. Don't start moving your toes. Don't roll to the outsides of your feet. Just keep your feet where they are. At this point, they're going to be probably where you feel the most comfortable squatting. If they aren't, turn the toes out a little bit more. Do whatever you got to do. Take that breath into your belly. Feel that fill. Keep it until you get to the bottom of where you can. Okay? Look for the floor. If you have to hold on to your knees, push your elbows in, get those knees out. See if you can get into a deeper position. We're going to take 3 big breaths here. Remember those breaths we did this morning. Big breath in. Get that air out. Again, big breath in. See if you can tip yourself up. Drive through and stand and squeeze. Good job, guys. Good. All right, now we're standing up. See how you feel. I'm hoping you'll be moving much more through your hips. You'll feel connected to the ground. You'll feel energy from the ground that's stabilizing you, so you don't have to be up into your shoulders today so much. Okay, if you notice little hikes up in your shoulders, tension in your neck, just find a way to settle into the ground. If you have to, go to the floor, reconnect with your breathing, make sure it's down here. Once you feel that connection, you can go back through some of the patterns we did to help you incrementally load yourself back up to a standing position, right? So now I'm here. Is my breath still in my belly? I'm checking that. Can I get up to here? Remember, there's our knee bend. Can I breathe through my belly? And then I can push myself up, squeeze the glutes if I have to. Just play around with that pattern, those stages of getting to the ground, finding your breath, coming back up, see if you're still breathing into that belly, okay? Good job, you guys, today. Thank you. We kind of played around a little differently than normal, a little bit faster, a little bit just kind of moving through things and trusting our breath to be there. So hopefully that will aid you in your day. I'm feeling great, and I will see you next week. I'll try to get these videos up on YouTube soon. This one will be on Instagram right now. All right, guys, I'll talk to you soon.